Hi everybody, it's Justine and we're going to be continuing on today with the watercolor tutorials and how-to for card making. Today we're going to be making this really fun background on this card featuring a watercolor technique and watercolor paints. I'm going to start off with my Tim Holtz Distress cardstock, and it's already pre-cut and everything for you and ready to go. We're going to start off by taping our washi tape and putting our card in place. I'm going to try to place them as even as possible so that we get a nice white border around. You want to make sure you apply some pressure after you attach it because you don't want the water to seep in after you're finished setting it in your watercoloring. After you're finished doing that, we want to add some water to our paper, and you want to do this so that the watercolors react when you put them onto the paper, and they're going to spread around and really work nicely if your paper is saturated with water. We've added yellow and red from my watercolor palette onto my craft mat. I like to work on my craft sheet because it's just easy to clean up the mess afterwards. And we're just going to mix some water and dilute that watercolor because it is, as you can see, quite dark. And when you go along, you'll see how awesome it is and how far they spread out, and we're going to just create similar to the day one technique, you could say, sort of a diagonal background. I'm just going to saturate this yellow paint and then add the same thing. So in day one we had that embossed background and it resisted the technique, and this is just going pure onto the paper without any sort of resist. We're just kind of doing a pouncing technique. It's a little bit different than what we've done before as well. So I'm not really dragging my brush too much all throughout the page. I'm more doing a pounce on and off the page. Now this may look a little hideous, you could say, as I'm doing this. It doesn't really look like it's going to turn out very nicely. But you can see the more you add water, the more you play with it, it's going to turn out really, really nice into a nice background that you saw on the card in the beginning of the video. I'm just going to take my paper towel now, and I'm just going to go through and I'm going to take off a lot of the color. Watercolor will dry lighter, but as you can see, it was quite messy of a background. So as you can see from this dabbing, you see exactly what can happen to the background. Okay, so I'm just going to come in again and I'm going to put a little bit more yellow, a little bit more red onto the paper. This is a totally random decision as to where I'm putting it. And you can just add some water if anything's getting too dark, and I'm going to dab that all off once again. I'm going to remove the washi tape and I'm going to do some stamping. So you can see I had my washi tape on there to do that white border around it. If that by chance does end up leaking and you get sort of a messy white border around it, you could always trim out that piece and then just attach it to another card base. That would work out for you as well. So I'm going to stamp this stamp here from Simon Says Stamp, and all the descriptions are below and also on my blog if you're interested in any of these products. And I'm stamping the happy and birthday. Now normally I like to use my Fiskars stamp press, and I'm not 100% sure why I decided to use an acrylic block for this, and you can see I end up dropping it when I'm doing my stamping and making a little bit of a mess. That actually happened twice when filming this video, so I totally prefer my Fiskars. For some reason I just can't hold a block this thin, so yeah. I stamped it more than once. I actually stamped it twice to get a darker look, and then I second generation stamped it. As you can see, I stamped it on the scrap paper and then once again under the happy to get it sort of a shadowed look. Next off, I'm going to do the birthday, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So remember, stamp it twice to get a really bold, dark look, and then once on the scrap paper on your third stamp, and then to make it the shadow, to make it a little bit lighter. And you can see that's where I dropped it. So I got a little bit of black and ended up just strategically placing some embellishments to hide it, but it wasn't too noticeable, so I wasn't too concerned. Okay, that was the second time. And you may want to use, if you're using an acrylic block, you may want to use a Stamp-A-Majig for this, just to make sure that when you're double stamping, it's not going to be off to the side or anything like that. It would just be more accurate. The next thing I'm going to do is I am just going to take a little bit more paint and just go in and fill in some of the edges that I thought were really white looking, just to add a little bit more interest. I wasn't too concerned if I got into the white border a little bit, and I was pretty much just trying to cover up a little bit of that black that I got onto the watercolor. Now, I'm going to be using some distress paint from Tim Holtz in white picket fence. And I decided to use this because I've seen this technique used before and using white pigment ink. And my white pigment ink is not here at the moment because I just ordered a new one and sold my old one, and needless to say I didn't have one. So I decided to sort of improvise with some distress paint. And I thought it worked out really, really nicely. It looks a little bit crazy right now, and I just went in and did a whole bunch of dots, just kind of freehand and randomly. I made sure to go slightly off the page as well, using that scrap piece of paper to make it look more random. And then I just went in with a paper towel and I dabbed them until they were dry. And that took off a lot of the paint. And as I said, it might look a little funny right now, but when it dried, it looked really cool. I decided it was lacking a little bit of the white around the title, so I just took this piece of paper to give it another extra daub. You can do that all along if you want to. I just thought it was kind of, had a sort of a bald spot, you could say, on the card, and it didn't look very nice. I thought the white was kind of sticking out a little bit too much and being too much of the focus of the card, and so what I did was I actually ended up going through again and stamping all over, regardless of whether it was in the border or not, and just doing a really random pattern this time and lots of the white ink just to lighten up that yellow and red once again. And I really liked the way that that turned out. So I ended up applying quite a bit of the white paint and then just going in and daubing it with my paper towel. It looks maybe a little bit ridiculous at the moment, but again, when it dried, it looked really cool. It kind of looks like when you're taking a photo and you get the sunlight in it. I know it starts with a B, the word, and I have no idea how to say it, and I can't remember what the word is, but that's the kind of look it looks like. Alright, so I grabbed the birthday again. I had thought that, it wasn't dark enough after the white was put on, and so I just wanted to go in and stamp over those again. Sorry about my messy hair. I tend to film on Saturday mornings in my pajamas. Went in with the happy again, almost got ink on my card again. I'm really never using an acrylic block again. It's a dangerous tool in these hands. Alright, so you can still see there's a little bit of white still on the actual sentiment, but I didn't mind the way that that looked. I thought it looked a little bit more bold with the extra stamping. And yeah, I didn't mind that little extra white you can see on the Y there. Wasn't a big deal to me. Alright, so now you can see my card is actually lightened up quite a bit. I dried it with a craft heater and had no problem. So I just put some glue on my craft mat and a couple of sequins and used my pick-me-up tool, which I'm terrible at using, and just applied some of the sequins kind of strategically to cover up those little tiny black specks I still had on my card. If anybody has any tips on how to use this pick-me-up tool, I would really appreciate hearing from you. It is 100% me. I know that. I just don't know how to use it, and that's why I kind of struggled with it, and it was one of my first times using it. But anyway, it's supposed to help anyway, and I think it's going to help in the end. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed the final outcome of this card. And I hope you continue following the watercolor how-to with card making that I'm going on for the next couple of days. I'm going to have 10 videos in total, so keep a lookout for that. Thank you so much.